This is Tush, and I welcome you to Tushalicious Talk, an Oklahoma City podcast for titillating women, tantalizing conversation. And I thank you in advance for allowing me to be your one-stop shop advocacy connection. Hello again from Tushalicious Talk, and I welcome you back to this podcast. I hope that we are all enjoying the better weather here lately and looking forward to upcoming events. In Oklahoma, we have an event coming up called Chronicpalooza that will be happening in a couple of weeks. And we also just had a vote not too long ago about whether or not to legalize recreational marijuana in our state. It did not pass, but we do still have recreational marijuana here. So I thought it would be good to have an episode over the cautious and incautious ways of using, and then also some bills that are still out there in the legislature. From Chronicpalooza, we have the founder, Carrie Lawrence. And if you will let us know what Chronicpalooza is and when and where and how did it come about?
Yeah, for sure. So, hello, my name is Carrie Lawrence, also known as some folks know me as Carrie Chronic of the Chronic brand. So, Chronicpalooza was basically founded 5 years ago. We started up Chronic Docs for those people that needed to get legal in the state to get their medical cards. And so we started out virtually, where you could do it virtually from home at first. And everybody was out traveling all over the state. They were going to every place they could to help people one-on-one, face-to-face, get their medical cards. And we started out virtually. We kind of like fine-tuned that and was able to help a lot of people that, were a little bit more computer savvy. But then we decided I really wanted to do a Guinness Book of World Records. I wanted to be able to get the most patients seen to get medical cards in the world. And we actually would have won it, but they don't recognize cannabis anything, so we couldn't submit our numbers. But our very first year, we started out Chronicpalooza. We seen over 1,500 patients on the very first day of Chronicpalooza. It was actually hosted out at the state fairgrounds area. And every 20 minutes, they would make us announce that you cannot smoke, even though it was legal to do so. But we plugged away. We kept getting people their medical cards. And I was like, well, if we're going to have this patient drive and all these people are standing in line, we've got to figure out something for them to do. So we had Tig Blues come out on his guitar and he performed. We started getting a couple booths set up, and just kind of evolved over the years. So this is year 5. And so from the first year, we've grown tremendously. We moved from the fairgrounds out to Crossroads Mall, which it was a vacant, abandoned mall at the time. And there was a group in there that had the JCPenney's building. And so we were like, hey, we need a place where they're not going to bother us about being medical patients. And we want to have another Chronicpalooza. So we were able to expand and get started doing our Chronicpalooza out at the Crossroads Mall. And we did it there for year 2 and year 3. Year 3 was right in when everybody got out of COVID. So it was probably an anomaly, but we had over 30,000 people show up to that event. It was epic. I don't know if we'll ever be able to duplicate it, but we definitely try every year. We try to make it magnificent, and it's just continued to evolve. A lot of people think because the name is Palooza, it's just this big rec party. We're out there getting stoned and everybody's going crazy. And really, to be honest, I like to have fun and I like to enjoy life, but really we're still very much geared to be a medical event. We're the only one in the state that tries to break the stigma by having children be able to be present. So as parents, if you choose to medicate with cannabis, you shouldn't have to get a babysitter just to go have a food truck and listen to live performances, because you can go to Norman, you can go to all these other places with your kids and have a beer and do different things. And so we tried to normalize Chronicpalooza to help break the stigma for all the reefer madness that still exists, which a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about on this bill, I feel, is reefer madness. But that's what it is. Literally, I've turned it into just an extravaganza, fun event for all ages. Children 5 and under are free. I keep the price very economical because I know as a whole, Oklahoma, we're not a rich state like most places. A big thing I've got tied into the Chronicpalooza is we have a 501c3 who it's called It Stops Here Foundation. Being that Oklahoma is one of the #1 states for incarceration, we fluctuate between 1, 2, and 3 in the world for incarceration. Our 501c3 nonprofit, it helps children whose parents are currently incarcerated. So we give back for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, back to school. You've actually participated with some of our events that she's helped and gave back with us. So we really try to raise awareness for that. There's definitely got to be change on that. There's still got to be change for the cannabis community. But yeah, so that's what it started. It started all with the patient drive, and it evolved to be what it is. This year, I'm really excited. We're back at Crossroads Mall. So let me rewind. So we had 2 years at Crossroads Mall. Then the mall got purchased by some Asian investors. We had to move out of the mall. We had last year out of El Reno, which was great, but it wasn't Crossroads Mall. I actually grew up on Southeast 70th, so that was my mall. I am a Southsider. That's my, that's what I know over there. And so literally the week after last year, Chronicpalooza, the gentleman who I had worked with before at the mall reached out to me and said, hey, these owners have this mall and they had a medical grow that they were going to put in the O. Dillard's building. The schools next door raised so much heck. They petitioned and changed the law because of them, which I'm like, that sounds like discrimination to me. You can't just pick on one person in the whole state because they they purchased a $6.5 million piece of property and now they want to put something legal in there. I understand it's next to the school. I understand that can be a concern, but they changed the law for them. They were forced not to be able to put a medical grow in the Dillard's building. So now these individuals were like, what do we do with this property? This is a dead mall. What do we do with it? And so I went out and met with them, pitched them my ideas and a little bit about what my background was and kind of what I envisioned it to be. And went into a partnership with the owners of Crossroads Mall. And then we now have the Old Dillard's building, which is 90,000 square feet on 3 different floors. We're starting out just using the first floor. So Chronicpalooza this year will be back where it's supposed to be, back home at Crossroads Mall. And so it'll be in the O. Dillard's building on the south side of the mall. We'll be inside and outside. We've got several food trucks will be there. We've got over 50 vendors that will be present. We've got live local acts performing all through the day. We have a kid zone area where you can bring your kids. We've got I don't know if y'all remember the fair that I think his name is Bobo the Clown, where he talks crazy and you can dunk him. Well, he'll be there. We have a dunk tank. We have axe throwing. We've got this big bounce thing for the kiddos. We'll have face painting. We have different activities. We're inviting anyone in the community that are artists that freestyle paint and want to put their paintings and stuff on exhibit. They can get a very deep discounted booth to come just kind of live perform and do some artwork there. I always try to do something totally different because cannabis is Chronicpalooza is like cannabis. There's so many different people. It doesn't matter what age you are, what color your skin is, where you come from. It kind of brings everybody together. And so I try to create Chronicpalooza to be similar to that because we are a melting pot of all kinds. And I want to try to always find things that would make it fun for everybody to attend and not just one specific demographic. So we have country artists performing, rock and roll artists, pop. Our main headliners this year, we just announced yesterday, we've got Little Kiki, the Don from Texas. He'll be down. And then some up and coming artists is Sauce Waka and Peso Peso. And then we have a native Oklahoman out of Tulsa who's actually signed to the Baby. His name is Highland Star. He's got songs with the Baby and Wale. He has a song Pretty as a Person. So we're doing a Pretty as a Person challenge for all the ladies. If they want to do that, they can get some free tickets for participating with his song. We're just trying to show him love because he's a very talented individual, and we're real proud that he's been able to get this far and just trying to support support all local artists in our city. So we have slap fight competition on Saturday. That's something new I've added, where it's actually a real thing. We've got 5-time champion UFC fighters are participating, and they're going to be slapping out of each other. I saw it and I started seeking them, and I wound up found a group out of Missouri that have the whole organization put together. They're bringing a production. It's going to be televised in front of over 3 million people all the way into Germany. So we'll have a live televised event. So that's super exciting for us this year. And then we always have our staple, which is Micromania. And this a little people, however you would like. Their shirt is hashtag Midgets Lives Matter Too. So I'll say what their hashtag is, so I don't offend anybody. But Micromania, they put on a great show. We've used them as performers for several years, and it's great. The kids love it. Adults love it. And just, a lot of good stuff. So it's not like a typical, when you hear of, it's a weed festival and all that. No, it's so much more than that. And it's we have vendors that are going to be there to educate a lot of the topics that we're getting ready to talk about. So I think that's real important to help break the stigma, as well as really educate the community. Because I think a lot of people are scared. They've been told for so long, this is something bad, don't do it. It's that reefer madness. And I feel like the more people can understand more about the plant, it will give them an opportunity to learn, to see if it's a good fit for you. I personally am not, even though I own the Chronic brands and I'm all about this life, I'm about it for the right to choose. I don't personally partake on a daily basis of flour and things like that, but I tell you what, I am a topical user, and I will use those all day long compared to a pain pill, because they fix me. They make me feel better. They relieve my pain and my swelling and stuff. So I think it's really a matter of people being able to figure out what's right for them, just like any other medication,
That's right.
And the right to choose. And I mean, who is someone to tell us what's right for us and what's wrong for us? I mean, a doctor tells us these things, but even they're wrong sometimes, Right. And you got to have choices. And this is a miracle plant that's been around since we all were inception of our lives, and it's been taken from us because of different reasons. And I just feel like, if you catch cancer, you might want to try out that FICO that'll kill it. And it's also known as Rick Simpson's oil. They don't want you to know about that. The pharmaceutical companies don't, but it literally, you can kill cancer with FICO. And it's a lot to it. So I'll have people out at our event that are very knowledgeable of all these different things. Even if you don't partake, if you're not a medical card holder, you don't have to be to show up. If you're someone who is like, I want to go out there just to see what this is all about, you do not have to have your medical card to show up. You can get your medical card, of course, there, because that's what we're founded on, is trying to help people get their medical cards. But at the end of the day, it's really about education and knowledge and letting people know that they have choices and decisions. They're not forced to do something, that maybe there's a better, healthier alternative to some of these narcotics that are being pushed down our throats by these doctors. So I'm not pro-weed in any fashion.
It sounds like you are geared toward helping the community in the best way possible. And as far as the League of Women Voters goes, we do not have a position on marijuana. So we don't support any of the bills, and we are not against any of the bills. We are just all for education. So when I met Toya a little while ago, she was the one that told me about Chronicpalooza. And I'm like, what is that? And so she got a booth there. And so I want to know why you got a booth at Chronicpalooza, and how do you feel like that's going to help your business?
Well, I have joined Chronicpalooza every year since the first Crossroads, except for one, every year except for one. Since the first Crossroads, and we had a blast that year. And we've had a blast every year since then. I make things like rolling trays, ashtrays, grinders, things like that. So it assists me with being able to sell. There's a lot of pop-up shops that I can't take my product to, or at least those products. I make more than that, but at least products that have smoked anything.
Paraphernalia.
And I can't take it to those events. So Chronicpalooza opens that up for me in a totally different lane. and I enjoy it, and I love the education and everything about it. It's fun.
It sounds like it's a way to help boost the economy more than what people realize. So,
and you don't have to be a cannabis business to participate in Chronicpalooza. I think that is also something that's a misconception. Again, it goes back to who's going to attend. This is a place where it isn't about, we can go out here and get high and we can all party and smoke weed together necessarily. That's not what this is about. So, I mean, just think of when you go into CVS. I mean, every type of individual of every type of brand of company is selling inside of CVS. And this truly is a medicine. So if you have a small business that you're trying to get your product in front of a large group of people who are potentially just medical patients, this is still something where you could participate and be able to make some good money, good networking. There's so many different people of all walks of life, all different shades, all different ages that attend this, that you don't know who you're going to rub elbows with that come to this, that as a small business of anything, this is still something that you should want to participate in and be a part of, because you never know.
Yeah, because it's definitely opened doors for me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. We will definitely give out the information on how to get a booth at Chronicpalooza at the end of this. So where I was coming at was an aspect of health, because so many things that I had read when we were trying to legalize recreational marijuana were saying that people were overdosing on marijuana. And I kept asking the question, how does a person overdose on marijuana? So I finally found an article that kind of explained it to me, and I definitely want to get your opinion on it. The article is called, "Is There a Safer Way to Smoke Cannabis?" And it comes from healthline.com/health/healthiest-way-to-smoke-weed. And so there is this term called greening out. And apparently that is the term, the medical term for a cannabis overdose, which means that you are turning or feeling pale or sweating or getting dizzy or having the spins and maybe even sometimes vomiting. So have you ever seen anyone experience this at Chronicpalooza? I know sometimes I watch shows on TV and it's like, especially for the edibles, it's like when the edible kicks in, then it's like the camera starts spinning, like they're all spinning and so forth. And I'm not a user, so I'm just interested in knowing what is your experience as far as greening out goes.
Well, I will say that we searched far and wide. I have a really good friend. Her name is Angie. She's the author of a book called Reefer Madness. She just launched it. And she and I were doing everything we possibly could to find the data in Oklahoma that would show the overdoses that have occurred this year alone or any year in the past 5 years. And the number is 0. So for one, that would be considered reefer madness. For anyone to speak on those terms would be considered reefer madness. However, I will speak on I've never heard of greening out, but I do know when I take 6 Advil, when my back is on fire, all of that happens to me as well. So I feel like that as an individual, when you're medicating for your ailments, if you overly take something of any sort, it could be an extra Vicodin that you shouldn't have took. It could be an extra Ambien. It could be, you take something extra of anything, you're going to not feel well. And unfortunately with cannabis, because they make it impossible for you to, except for individuals who take it upon themselves, like at our events and things like that, they make it impossible for you to get really good information to help with medication. So it really is kind of like you're in your grandma's kitchen and you guys are cooking up something and trying out certain things and trying to see what works for you, because they've made it such a hush-hush thing, such a bad thing. Mm-hmm. There isn't a ton of data out there and a lot of really good information, except for individuals who have made this their life journey to educate people and try to, like I mentioned earlier, like the Rick Simpsons of the world and the Jack Herrers and just different people that have really made this their journey to try to help cure people with the plant. You don't have a lot of stuff to go by. So when me personally, like I had to learn the hard way, good or bad, I'm not an edible person personally. And when I do eat a lot of edibles, or not even a lot, if I eat too much of one, I feel like I'm in outer space. I can hear Martians and all these things. But I learned that, and I know not to do that. And that would be also when I've had surgeries and I've been given particular prescription medication. There are certain ones that I feel like I'm itching to death. I get heat flashes, and I'm allergic to cornmeal. You're probably not. That's part of the things that we have to learn as individuals when we're trying to just
figure
live
out
life.
What our limitations are.
And that's just, I feel that's one person's opinion. I do know that if you do overly do anything, the similar things are going to happen. I do hear it with the edibles. I think it's because, like, we had judge kits and we had people that would enter in their products. And so I would take a taste of every one of them because I'm a foodie. I love food. And so one nibble, might be 5 milligrams, but I'm trying 50 different products. And now I'm on 50 times 5. Yeah, I'm probably a little bit, for me and my dosage usage that I can handle as an individual, that's a bit much. But I think food can get a little bit dangerous, but you're not going to die. Mm-hmm. You're not going to overdose. There is nothing that's ever shown in the books that someone is overdosed from it. You might feel like you might for a few hours until it kind of starts wearing off. But it's also the same thing with alcohol. I don't know how many people have partaked in alcohol, and drink too much and the room spins, they black out, they do all kinds of stuff. But you live and learn from different things or overdose on anything. But you can't overdose, but you can feel bad if you do take it, just like you could feel bad taking anything else that you do excessively.
So the safest ways that this article said to use cannabis are 5 different types: edibles, sublinguals, tinctures, topicals, and suppositories. Yeah. And so since we're talking about edibles, what it says is that they don't harm your lung health. And it takes longer to kick in, and it lasts longer. It needs to clear your digestive system before getting into your bloodstream. So that is considered a safe way versus actually smoking it so that your lungs are not damaged.
Well, that's the thing, though. The cannabis smoking flower doesn't damage your lungs at all. In fact, it could actually make your lungs healthier from what I've been told. If you've got someone who smokes cigarettes, they tend to try to, like even the law, the 788 law, they say anywhere that you can smoke cigarettes, you can smoke flower. It's legal. But it's medicine.
I'm not sure about the actual flower itself. From what I was reading, it's more like it was saying joints versus blunts. A joint is safer than a blunt because the blunt, you have the cigar wrap. And even after you've emptied all the tobacco out of there, the wrapper itself has high concentrations of toxins in it. And that is what is damaging your lungs.
But a lot of people that I know that are truly medical patients, they're not smoking with blunt wrappers. That's kind of like a trend that got started when it was illegal. Most people who are medical patients, they're going to use the wraps that are made from hemp, which is very healthy, and it isn't got any of those particular toxins.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not either way. I'm not for or against. I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just trying to get the information out there that, if there are some people that are out there.
But if you do use like a Black and Mild, which is very common, and they're calling the sticks at the 7-Elevens, and if they do have tobacco products in them, those are definitely not going to be as healthy as if you were to get a natural wrap or just a paper.
Or even a joint paper. Yes, that's what the article I read said.
Or using she's got some apparatuses over there where you actually put the flower in and you just smoke it straight from the bong itself.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. So what about sublinguals? What's the difference between a sublingual and an edible?
A sublingual is typically a very high dosage, pure concentrate of the product. And you normally are going to have it with a droplet, and it's going to go underneath your tongue, just like you would a medicine sublingually. So it hits the bloodstream of the
mucous membranes
much quicker, and so it's going to start going in effect a lot faster. Than it doesn't have to go through the stomach and all of that, or the lungs or anything. Right. So it's a much quicker. I see that a lot for people who are using it for pain management. They'll get the very high dosage, like 1,000 milligrams of a sublingual, and like out of that they see like one drop, but they'll put it underneath their tongue and they'll instantly feel relief. Where if you didn't do it that way, it might take 30 minutes to an hour to start feeling relief. So a lot of people...
With the edible.
Or even the flower. And for people who have seizures, that they're really using this for a medicinal a lot of them will take that sublingually. So it hits, if they have a seizure, they could throw it, the child, they could use it to put on the bottom of their tongue to possibly stop a seizure immediately. Cool. And so that's a really important product for people who have that type of issue or ailment. It's used for a lot of different other things, but I find that more for pain and for seizures.
What about tinctures and topicals? What's the difference between a tincture and a topical? And I've never heard of these things. I found this article so interesting because a lot of this stuff, I promise you, I have never heard of.
Well, a tincture is very similar to a sublingual there, but it's also used with a dropper normally. It's really just you might put on the top of your tongue instead of underneath it. The topical is what I said I use. Like my dad, he's been in security and law enforcement forever, and he's been not happy about medical cannabis because he's still in his mind about, oh, this is an illegal substance, even though it's legal. And he had to get his knees replaced, and he's had a lot of things where he has a lot of pain. And so I grabbed a topical and rubbed it on his ailments, and he was like,
felt better.
Oh, he screams to the mountaintops about this topicals, how they are the best thing in the world. And he's a medical patient now. And
so a topical is basically an ointment.
Yeah, it's you rub it on just like you would like a vapor rub or just any kind of rub that you would rub on, like that icy hot. It will definitely, if you're worried about a positive result to a drug screen, it will definitely, if it has THC in it, it will show up because it's going to penetrate through your skin and it will show up. You'd have to put quite a bit of it on for it to show up, but I would never tell anybody to risk it. You definitely want to be a medical patient if you're going to use it. But it's really good for the elderly community. It's really good for just any kind of aches.
Probably lumbar degeneration or arthritis, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, cool. So in the tinctures, so it's more like alcohol based, and you put it in a drink, right?
You can put it in a drink, or you could just put it directly into your mouth as well. Okay. You can cook with it. Some people make meals with it, and they'll like drizzle it maybe into their salad to try to, not everybody, different brands are I found with edibles and these type products, there's different brands and different people's preferences. It goes back to individuals. Some people feel like they need to taste the weed in it or it's no good, even though they've masked the flavor not to taste like weed because the person that manufactured it feels, well, people don't want to taste weed when they're doing or cooking with it or they're doing different things with it. Right. But there are certain individuals who are like, well, if I don't taste the weed, I don't think it's any good. It's kind of like a drink, a cocktail, where if you can't taste the liquor, I just wasted my money, but it's not the case.
It might creep up on you later, though.
So you got two different, it's kind of like, with chocolate chip cookies. I like them soft. You might like them hard. Right. And that's just kind of how it is with that. But the tinctures you can do a lot of different ways. But I know a lot of people that just put it right in their mouth.
With like how with alcohol, it only lasts in your system a little while. Is that the same way with tinctures, or is it going to last in your system the same amount as like an edible or sublingual?
Well, like there's a lot of drinks that are out there. You'll feel it faster, but they'll be gone quicker. Where if you eat an edible, it might take 30 minutes and it'll last, a while, but it takes a little bit longer because it goes back to how does it get into your bloodstream. So like a liquid, it kind of hits the back of your tongue and hits your bloodstream a little bit faster, metabolizes quicker than a food will have to go through the stomach, go through all the other areas, and then it kind of hits or whatever. So usually the more liquid it is, it's going to hit your stream faster. So you'll feel it faster. And it tends to go out faster. Okay. But you get relief faster. That's why the tinctures under your tongue is important. Because if you're having a seizure or something, to try to stop it so you can immediately get relief from that for your kiddo or yourself or whatever.
Okay. So the weirdest one that I read about are suppositories. And this was absolutely crazy to me. But everything that I read said people get a lot of therapeutic relief from pain and nausea from THC or CBD infused inserts. Yeah. So what do you know about this?
Well, I had a friend who was dying of cancer, and towards the end of his life, he wasn't able to eat and he was in a lot of pain. And so he couldn't keep anything down. And he couldn't smoke or anything. It was just a bad situation. So the only way he could get relief while he was passing was able to get the suppository. And the suppository made him feel really good. And it just made it a very good transition for him. So people who, Crohn's disease, sometimes those type patients, suppositories are really good for them. Mm-hmm. Anyone who has a gut issue or a eating, they can't eat or they can't keep food down for whatever reasons. People that are maybe in chemotherapy and different stuff.
When you say that they can't keep food, so it helps the lining in your stomach or something?
No, it just allows you to medicate yourself without losing it. Like possibly if you can't keep food down and you might throw up, if you eat something or ingest it or take it, you might not be able to keep it. You might throw up and get sick from being nauseated. Where a suppository, when you use a suppository, it allows you not to go through the stomach and the mouth area, and it stays. It allows you to be able to medicate and keep your medicine. It'll also help increase so like if you're someone who struggles with eating and it's just really, you're nauseated all the time, a lot of times they can take a suppository and it will increase their appetite and allow them to be able to eat. It's just kind of weird. It's like, there's other medicines with just regular pharmacy that will do the suppository thing. It's just it's kind of being creative on how to medicate yourself based off your ailment. And so that's just another option for people that might be suffering the ability to take it, awesome. Through their mouth.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is vaping. So, or vaping or not vaping. I think even with myself, with regular, not even talking about marijuana, just regular vaping versus cigarettes. A lot of us assume that vaping is safer than smoking a cigarette, or we would say in this case, than smoking a joint or a blunt. But from everything that I have read, it is actually not. And so the concerns are that you are inhaling vitamin E. But what I will say that I read is that as far as marijuana goes, that risk only seems applicable when you are vaping concentrates and not a flower. And so that kind of confused me because I don't know the difference. What's the difference between a concentrate and a flower?
So a concentrate is where they take the actual flower nug and they use different methods to take it from its flower state and turning it into more of a liquid form. And there's multiple different ways that they can do that. There's one way they use it, which is probably one of the safest. It's called like hash water. It's almost like they wash it with water and ice and extract these elements out and create
kind of like milking an almond.
Kind of, yeah. And it turns it into this thick substance. And you can do it like that. And then you've got some where they use like these butane, CO2, like there's hydrocarbon solid, hydrocarbon liquids, which I'm learning that myself because of our judge kits stuff that we're putting together. So all these different processors, some of them have where they've got these huge, it's gases, different gases they have to use to pull it out, extract it, and then they have to, it's almost very, Nutty Professor it's like really they really have to have a skill to know how to do that, to do it properly and to do it safely, just like you would other types of medicines. And so, but they pull it out and it literally, you might have a whole bunch of flour and then they'll put it through the process and it turns it into like that much. It's like so small. It's like in a little bitty container, like super small. And then they'll use that and they'll put it into these different bongs with a torch to light it up, and then they'll inhale it that way. But that is a pure form of the plant, which a like people who I know that actually medicate very heavily prefer concentrates over even flower because it pulls all of the really important parts of the plant out, and it's like a pure. It's pure medicine on the concentrate side typically. Now, when it goes to the vapes, I know like there's distillate vapes, which is they've pulled everything out except for just the THC. They've take out the terpenes, they take everything, and it kind of just it makes it a liquid, and then they reintroduce the product with they like re-inject it with terpenes, so it's not as pure. Then you've got like full spectrum where they use all of the plant to make their vapes, and it's got all the goodness and all the right things that you're supposed to have without taking it and separating it, and they'll put those in the vape carts. So when you're looking for vapes, a lot of times it's kind of like the less expensive ones are going to be distillate because it's kind of like, I think of it kind of like the off-brand. It's cheaper. It's less expensive to make. The process is less to put it, reintroduce everything back into that. And then you've got like the full spectrum, which is they take fully the whole plant and they put it into the vape cart. And so when they do this process, they're putting everything back in from the plant and making it pure to be able to medicate with it as a vape.
Cool.
It's a lot to it. I sound like I think I'm talking. I'm like, wow. I didn't even know I knew all that stuff. As I'm just going off the things that I've learned over the past 5 years. You know.
Yeah. So can you put a concentrate inside a bong?
You actually, the bong style that you use is a little bit different than that one right there. Like the one that she has in front of her is made for flower, but the concentrate typically it's a very similar apparatus.
So there's two different types of bongs. That's what y'all were saying?
Yes, I wish I would have brought the other one now.
So the one that you have brought, Toya, this one you said is for a flower.
For flower.
Okay. So we're not going to go into how to use it or anything like that. But yeah, these are the types of products that will be at Chronicpalooza.
Yeah, there should be several people that have different things out there to learn, and they'll talk to you. Don't feel like there's any dumb questions, because there's not. You know.
So what
and
else
that's
do you
what
have
it's all
over
about.
there?
Is about just educating to learn.
I have a lighter rolling tray.
Okay, basic rolling tray, and you can customize these rolling trays to where they can get whatever picture they want or photograph or whatever, words or anything on there.
Yes.
Okay.
Photograph, words, everything.
Okay. And what is this thing?
That's an ashtray.
Oh, this is an ashtray. You got a light up ashtray. Okay. It lights up, y'all. Okay. So you can see it in the dark,
this is
I
a
guess.
small stash jar.
A stash jar to put your stuff in.
Put your goodies in.
It lights up too. That's pretty cool,
That
y'all.
is cute.
Okay. And this one
Grinder.
is another. Oh, this is a grinder. This is not a stash
That's for
tray.
the folks like me that don't want to do it with our fingers. You
Me
throw
too.
it in there, and
I don't
you
like my
just
fingers being sticky and dirty.
do half the work for you.
And then I have a larger
These can be
stash
customized
jar.
as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Everything can be customized if you want to add a picture, a phrase, anything like that to
And
it.
we got the stitch. Oh,
Yes,
we got
stitch.
Oh my gosh, this is so cute. And then you just, okay, I'm gonna let you, I don't want to break it.
You just twist his head.
You twist his head.
What?
Oh,
And then there's a jar on the inside. Oh my God, that is so
That's
cute.
one way to do it.
Yes, so go out there and purchase this stuff, you guys. That is so
Yes.
cool. Oh my God, that is so cool. Okay, so my last question before we talk about some of these bills. I read about this thing called dabbing. What is dabbing?
Dabbing is what you use the concentrates for. And there's the apparatus that I was referring to, similar to the one that looks like that. There's also some that they've got these little dab pins that are for more people that are maybe not as diehard dabbers, or they are dabbing on the go. But it really is, the dabbing is for concentrates. And again, it's to get it more of the pure overall everything of the plant.
Do you know the pros and the cons of dabbing?
You don't want to be a brand new person and dab. If you're just getting introduced to cannabis and trying to figure it out and trying to learn what works good for you, probably wouldn't say go jump in and go do some dabs.
That'd be head first.
Yeah, you went from graduation and you're starting out in elementary school, you graduated. That's for people who have kind of understood their body, their ailments. They've they've been smoking flower or medicating with the sublinguals or tinctures or whatever for a little bit. I'm not saying you could never, be a brand new person and not get to dab, but
just don't recommend it.
I wouldn't do it right off the top because it's definitely a very potent, it's a very high dosage at one time. And you would need to kind of figure out, do you want to do one small dab? Is that enough for you? It goes back to milligram, just like we'll use even Advil as an example. I'm a 2 to 3 Advil pill person. If I take 6 because I'm in pain and I think I'm going to get sick, I'm going to be throwing up, I'm going to have the sweats, I'm going to do all of that. And I had to learn, okay, Carrie, you can't go to sleep even though you're in pain and it's Advil and it's supposed to take your pain away. So until you kind of figure out where you are, with the dab, like I did a small little dab pen and I was like, that's enough for me. I don't even want to, do any more because I don't think that would be good for me. But then I work with Larry Reed, the man on weed, who, he's definitely someone who's done this all of his life, and he'll dab for hours at a time, and it's what he needs to keep his shakes and various different things that he's got down and to make him be able to function with his anxiety and everything. So it just really, it's just like anything else, is figuring it out and seeing what's best for you and knowing that you have an option other than the typical pharmaceutical drugs as a choice. But definitely, we have some really great dispensaries out there that have great employees that will teach and go over a lot of these questions with you. And Chronicpalooza is definitely a place to come out just to ask questions, even if you have no intentions of trying anytime soon. Or you might have someone who's sick, or you might have someone who has cancer, or you might have somebody that has, seizures or various different things, and to come out and ask questions on their behalf, it's a really great place to learn, because that's what it's really all about. We are definitely, even though it's Palooza in the name, it is definitely an educational medical event that we try to put together.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that the people who get the booths and participate on the administrative side actually pay attention to the bills that are still in circulation in Oklahoma. Just because we voted to not legalize recreational, there are still some other bills out there. I'm gonna read 5 of them, but I only want to talk about the last 2 because we're running out of time here. So Senate Bill 437, it establishes a registry of physicians who can recommend patient cards and puts in continuing education requirements. So I'm hoping that is not like a busy work bill, but it does sound like it could have pros and cons to it, but we would need to, discuss that further.
Well, Mrs. Garvin is part of several medical groups. And so she has a vested interest to do anything that's going to make her friends a lot of money. And so she's pushing things that are going to help her colleagues make money. And that's my 2 cents on that one.
Okay. Senate Bill 113, it would remove the agricultural sales tax exemption from medical marijuana growers and processors.
Again, I feel like people at the Capitol are starting to discriminate on the cannabis community by singling them out. They don't single out any other farmer in the state. And so I feel by them doing a lot of these things that they're proposing, it's singling out a specific class. And I feel that is a form of discrimination.
Mm-hmm. So this House Bill 1616, it will require any elected official or appointed public official to disclose the ownership of medical marijuana businesses. Do you feel like there should be something added to that to where you should disclose if you have friends that have or
I feel like with that, they're almost trying to shame. I feel like if that's something that's required of any other business in the state to have to acknowledge, then that's fine. But if no other particular class of business is required to do that, I feel like it's a way for them to try to shame themselves or to kind of put a strobe light on the individuals at the Capitol to try to discourage them to participate, to be a part of the program. That's my opinion.
Well, hopefully we'll get more education out and there's no discrimination of any type, because everyone has their rights. So House Bill 1711 would require commercial growers to disclose water and electricity usage to the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority. What I heard about this is that they're trying to track their water and electricity usage because they're saying that they are illegally getting marijuana from like the cartel and so forth and so on, instead of actually growing it themselves. Do you think that there's any truth to that?
I mean, again, it goes back to if they don't monitor every farmer in the state's water intake on different things, I don't see why they're picking this particular class. And each farmer, the way that they grow their medical cannabis is going to be different. So, and how often they use electricity for their plants, how often they do that. So I just feel like, again, they're singling out a particular type of farming because it's the legal way to farm. And if they're not, it's almost, again, a way to shame people from being a part of it. And I don't know how, I mean, if the OMMA is regulating and going out and doing their pop-ups, which they do all day, every day, they're going to find the farms, which they do, that are not doing it properly. I just feel like when you single out an individual group just because they're part of a cannabis community, it's just, you're picking on them.
Yeah. So the last two is Senate Bill 439 and 440. And 39 puts additional restrictions on 2 physicians needed to recommend marijuana for patients under 18. If you're 18 and older, you would still only need 1, but 18 and under, you would now need 2.
Well, it's already been that. So that's why I wasn't sure why they were changing it, because since 788 passed, it requires two different physicians to see the patient. You have to have a first and a second already. So that's already in place. But I think what I was reading up, which kind of falls in place with SB 440, is they're trying to make it where children can only medicate with flour. And that kind of goes back to the individual. You know, if a child needs sublingually to take this, or if they need a suppository or whatever it is, I don't feel like the Capitol should tell a child how they need to medicate in order for their ailments. That's what a doctor's for. That's why they already require 2 doctors talk to the patient before they approve them for their medical. So now they're trying to treat it like it's a recreational situation for these kids, and that's not the case. And they're trying to dictate the type of ways that they can administer it. All that's going to do is create more parents having to medicate their children with their own home grows, which is fine, and that's something that's legal, then can be done now. And they'll have to start baking, and they're going to have to start trying things. They're going to have to start making things at home because they're going to do whatever it takes to make their child feel better and to heal their problems. You know, because they're going to do whatever. So I think that they're just going to make it harder on the parents to be able to take care of their kiddos is what I feel.
So the part that I read, it said that 440 only limits the THC content in edibles for minors. So I'm not sure about the rest of it. I haven't looked very thoroughly into all of these. So I'm definitely up for if there's anyone else out there. And again, these are still, they're not made into law yet. They're just bills that are in circulation. So it doesn't mean that they're actually going to become law, but they are out there on the books. So, you know, I would say contact your legislators, give them your opinion, whether you're pro or con, or, you know, especially, and then research it for yourself and see, are these measures needed or are they not needed? Are they just busy work, or, you know, or are they really needed? So, but either way, I definitely appreciate both of you for coming on this show. I have learned a lot today. And I hope that our listeners have learned a lot today too. If they want to get a booth at Chronicpalooza, how do they contact you?
They could go right up to the website. It's chronicpalooza.com. We have small business tables for like this young lady right here to help a little bit more. They're just $250 for both days to vend. And then, but you can go up there, you can get your 10 by 10 booth, 20 by 20 booth, if you want to be a sponsor, if you want to have stage presence with banners or whatever. We are already full with our food trucks. Unfortunately, we had to do those 10 days in advance to meet the requirements for the city. So we have that already in place. But yeah, you can go right up there. And if you need to come get your medical card, you can come out on site. We'll have our Dr. Foch, she'll be out on site.
Cool.
Get your med cards.
So, Toya, if they want to purchase a what is this? A weed tray? You said
yes, a rolling tray.
A rolling tray. I'm sorry, or a bong, or any of these customized products. How do they contact you?
Well, my website is actually under construction right now. jomaecc.store. However, you can still go to the site and view things. We ask that you contact us via phone to purchase 405-774-3340. If you would like to make an order, again, you can go to jomaecc.store and view things. Everything is made custom, so we do not have very much inventory. So if it's for you, it is definitely just for you.
Yes. So bring your ideas to her, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Tushalicious Talk is part of the Breaking Ice, Building Bridges community podcast platform, brought to you by Possibilities, Inc.